So about a week ago, I got a suggestion that I make a video about the Swedish animation studio Film Narna. And when I first saw that suggestion, I thought, great, let's see what I can find out. Anyway, long story short, this video is taking me longer to make than I usually do, and I don't want to leave you guys hanging, so I want to talk about something else today. A wonderful documentary called Magia Russica. It kind of goes without saying that I've recently developed a liking for Soviet-era cartoons, so to make a documentary about them is something that's right up my alley. Especially when the people being interviewed worked at Soyuzmultfilm, a studio that I've covered several times on this channel. I've actually wanted to talk about this for a while now, but I had a hard time finding it anywhere online, so one day I just said fuck it and bought the DVD. But wouldn't you know it, I soon found a video where someone uploaded it just a few days before I bought the DVD. I was kind of annoyed when that happened, but at least I can say I have a physical copy, and that I supported the makers of this film. Speaking of the film, what is there exactly to say about it? Being that this is a documentary, it's a little bit harder for me to review than the stuff I normally do, 'cause, where do I even start? Well, at the beginning, some of the people are talking about how Russian animation came to be in the first place. Soyuzmultfilm was only established in 1935, but as far back as 1910 they had a man named Staryevich who discovered animation on his own. It would have been pretty nice to see some of those pre-revolution animations, but then again, this is a documentary about Soviet animation, so you get what you paid for. Anyway, they also talk about what a big impact that Disney had on them. In 1935, Disney sent 3 different movies over to Moscow for a film festival, and it absolutely blew these guys away. They also mention how they took notes from Henry Ford and how they set up their departments so that way they can make cartoons more efficiently. And boy, once they had that pipeline system down, nothing could stop them from making all the cartoons that they wanted. You may be thinking about the government, but as it turns out, that's largely not the case. Some of the guys admit that their cartoons were banned for a little while when they were first made, but after about a year or two, the government would usually relent and release their film anyway. And since they were a cartoon studio, they were expected to make films for children, which means that the censor board would go a lot more easier on them than they would live-action films. In other words, kids' shows were made to teach them moral values, instead of teaching them about government and party ideology. Speaking of government, most of the people interviewed here display a sort of nostalgia for the Soviet Union. In fact, some of them make the argument that making cartoons was easier under the Soviet Union, because under communism you only had to answer to one regulatory body at the time, as far as I'm aware. Whereas in the capitalist system, you have to please your investors, focus groups, and just so many other people. And I'm not gonna lie, that's a pretty damn good argument. There are also a few scenes of a bunch of school children visiting an animation exhibit in Moscow, and it makes me really happy to see that the children are just as excited to talk about and learn about animation as the old men. So overall, I found this to be a very heartwarming documentary. And it's even got some funny parts, too. There's one part where they're talking about how one of the animators got his house robbed once, and I'm just going to leave it at that. You gotta see it for yourself. As for me, if I had to rate this documentary, I would probably say 4 out of 5. It was great. Anyway, that's it for now. Be sure to hit that like and subscribe button, and I'll see you next time. Bye. This is a product of our great society.